Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friday with Fran. I am talking a little quieter today because poor Fran is a little under the weather, and I didn't want to be over the top excited and cause her to have any more health problems than what she's already having. So without telling you what she's dealing with, if she wants to share with you, that's fine. But I would ask for anybody who is a praying person that you would just pray for Fran. She's been dealing with several health issues, and we love Fran and we want to continue Friday with Fran. So we need Fran to be healthy in order for us to be able to do that.
Thank you.
I apologize to everyone for not having notice up ahead of time that we were jumping on today. I was actually about 10 o'clock this morning alerted that 100 of my books were available for me to pick up. And so it was like an hour away. So I dashed over to pick those up and dashed back. So I just got home. Hey, Alex, welcome. So glad you're with us today. We missed you the weeks that you weren't with us. And so anyway, I was just barely able to get the link up and ready to go and to share it with Fran. So first of all, before we jump in, hi, Fran.
Hi. And Cooper's needy today, so Cooper's joining us. He's, I think, holding me today.
I just think that Cooper wants to be in the show because for the last several Fridays, he's been wanting to be in your lap during this. So I just think he's starting to be a glory hog and he just wants attention. He's so cute. He's so cute. I'd love to have him on the show. Okay, so as I just mentioned that I was, I dashed over to get these copies of these books, and on my way home, this song came on, and just something said to me, this is a song I need to let you all hear. So I'm going to play this song. Hopefully, Fran has tried to help me. Hopefully, I have it set up correctly. So I'm going to play this song for you, and then we'll just go into what we're going to talk about today. So first of all, I have to put it back into the stream, and Fran, you'll have to give me, you'll have to tell me if we can hear it or not. Uh-oh.
Whoa.
Nope, hang on. I'm still getting sound. Sorry. I thought I had closed it, but I don't know if y'all heard that or not. But yeah, that song speaks volumes. And Fran and I, our topic for today is supporting families with special needs during the holidays. So many of us are going through something. And when that something is on top of having a person in your life, in your household with a special need, that gets that much harder. My first suggestion to anyone who resonated with that song, who felt like that song was for you, is to let people in. Let people know that your life isn't all rainbows and unicorns, and that you could use some support, whether that's a virtual hug. If you're in an area where you can give a physical hug, could be a physical hug. It could just be an ear to listen to. I had a great opportunity over the weekend to spend some time chatting with one of my family members, and I haven't had that opportunity before, and it was really good for me. It was very helpful to me. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until it was over. And I just felt so blessed to have had the opportunity, so refreshed for having had the opportunity. And I felt like we were each helping each other in different ways from the conversation. I don't have a child with a special need, but Fran, you have two. Is what I'm saying something that you agree with, or is it something that you feel that people don't want to hear from you?
It's few and far between who the people that can even understand. So sometimes it's hard to open up because there isn't that understanding, and instead it's a comparison of, yeah, my kid had a tantrum too, and a tantrum and a rage fit, they don't always compare. So sometimes it's hard to open up. But I've been blessed to have people with whom I could open up. But it's you have to trust. You have to be able to trust the person with whom you're speaking. And so my only suggestion, encouragement to anyone who happens to know people who have children with different abilities is just sometimes you don't even need to say anything, just to be that sounding board, just to listen. You don't have to have the answers. A lot of times people don't want you, yeah, sometimes we would all love all the answers in the world, but we don't have those answers, honestly. No, only God has those answers. So
Right.
we just can't really anyway. So sometimes just allowing someone to vent and you don't even have to agree with them. And that's something I'm learning. We don't have to agree with what someone's saying, but we can allow them to at least vent.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean we're agreeing with them as they're venting. We're just that sounding board at that time.
Right. And I have a good or a bad habit. I try to be an active listener, which, so, like I'll nod my head and I'll say, mm-hmm, as the person is talking, because I want them to know that I'm hearing what they're saying and I'm actually listening. But I have been told that because I do this, a lot of people think I'm agreeing with them. And I'm like, oh no, that's not necessarily, that was just me, letting you know that I was listening to what you had to say. And so I try to, if I disagree with something that somebody is saying, be very cognizant of the head nods so that I'm not like, oh yeah, and like, oh no, I don't really agree with what you're saying. So, but yeah, and that's what you said about having to trust and then having few and far between that understand. I've had people who have someone with special needs in their families talk to me over the years, and I've tried to be understanding, and I've, and I can empathize to a certain point, but I don't know what it's like. I don't know the depth, like you said, the trust. I'm going to tell you a story that I don't know if I've shared with you before or not, that really impacted me in such a way that I felt like it was an epiphany to the amount of trust that someone with a loved one with special needs has to have in letting somebody else in. And this is a story in the book, so I'm kind of promoting the book. Those who can't teach, I have a bad habit of doing that. I say the wrong title of the book. I just happen to have it right here. But in fact, let me see if I can find the exact words. So what the situation, I'd had a student for a couple of years, and she was, I think, 7. And she's really close to my daughter's age. And so she has Down syndrome, and there was a buddy walk in our area. And I said, I think it would be really cool to take Rose to the buddy walk, and then, she can play with our daughter, and that'll be, kind of the, so she's not just going with adults kind of thing. So I asked, and the parents got back to me pretty quickly that she would be allowed to go with us. I can't find it. I'm in her chapter. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Near the end of my second year with Rose, I asked Dan and Marianne if my family and I could take Rose to a local buddy walk. My daughter and Rose were just a few weeks apart in age, so I thought it would be perfect for them to get to know each other. And then I talked about the buddy walk, and it was only in its second year in our area, and it was a place that I was very familiar with. Dan and Marianne agreed she could come with us, but when the day arrived and we picked Rose up, they were acting a little differently. I went over the details of where we would be and how long I thought we would be gone, and I gave them a number to call me if necessary. They still seemed a little nervous. As Dan buckled Rose into our vehicle, he said to me, "You know, you are the first person we have ever trusted to take Rose away from us." And as you can tell, it still overwhelms me because I looked at him and I said, I said, "You mean the first person outside of your family?" And he said, "No, ever." And the enormity of all that, sorry, I'm turning my phone down, that all of that entailed. She was 8, and several times in my daughter's 8 years, she had gone to friends' houses and families' houses for sleepovers. And there were people who had watched her when my husband, Kevin, and I, would have a date night or something. The tone of his voice and the look on his face and his words left me speechless. I suddenly felt a great weight on my shoulders. I had never thought about this from their perspective. And he goes on to say, or she goes on to say, that you want to trust that people have your child's best interest at heart, but the reality is that there are bad people in the world. And Rose couldn't tell them if something bad had happened to her. So I hope that if anyone is listening that didn't have that grasp of the intensity of the trust level of being let into the family and to the heart of that family with special needs, it's incredible. I was a nervous wreck that day, the whole time we had her with us. And that's talked about a little bit more in the book. And then it's talked about what her parents did once we drove out of the driveway. And I had given them an idea of a time that I thought we would be back, but we ended up getting back later than that. And this was long before cell phones were real prevalent. And this was like this was 2008, 2007. And I didn't think that I needed to call. It just didn't even cross my mind to say, "Hey, we're going to be a little bit late." But when we pulled up in the driveway, her dad was sitting on the tailgate of his truck. And he told me when I interviewed him for the book that he had been waiting there for at least a half an hour. Just could not, they didn't know what to do with themselves, first of all. And then when we were later than we said, all kinds of panic ensued for them. And yeah, I've always had to trust the people that our daughter has spent the night over at their house, or, when family has taken her. But that was like not a major thought or a concern for me. Like I realized for Rose's family, it is. Mm-hmm. And as you're nodding, I'm wondering if she's actively listening, or if she's is she identifying with what I'm talking about?
Well, I knew that I couldn't do it on my own. So from a very early time, I had to trust others to help. So it's a little different for me, but uh, but there have been different phases and times through life where I've had to again release my child and just trust. And I've realized that mainly I just have to trust God and His plan for each of my kids, because I know that He's got them in the palm of His righteous right hand, and that's the only way I can do it now, because like in this season of that we're in, what a season of COVID, for lack of a better word,
Mm-hmm.
just I continually have to trust the people that are with my son who lives, in a group home. I can't really get to him. I can't see him, so I have to trust them for his care, and um, that's sometimes really hard.
Yeah.
So, or my I love my daughter. Can I tell you that? Sometimes she pipes up with some of the most interesting things. She sent me a text, and she goes, "Can I go to the Ark and Creation Museum with whom?" And she tells me, I'm like, you just met him
Oh,
on a
wow.
mission trip. You just met them on the mission trip. Maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah.
That's another whole level of trust.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So anyway, but that was she texted me that just the other day. We haven't really gotten that far.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, okay, so that's a season of trust as we were talking. So I think
Right.
for me it's seasons of trust, seasons of uh, different levels of having to. But like I said, I knew I couldn't do it on my own. I did, especially once I realized that I had a couple of kiddos who were going to require lots of attention.
Right.
I just you only have so many arms and legs, and
Right.
so
And
and I was blessed with the people. I
right.
have been blessed with people that have loved my children as my own, and so yeah.
And that I want the people that are listening to this episode to understand that Fran had to, for her own sanity, for the sake of being able to be the loving parent that she needed to be, she had to force herself to trust. And I think with a lot of families that have a child with special needs, especially when the child is nonverbal or paraverbal, I think is what our viewer shared with us a couple months back when we were talking about that they can sometimes say things, but they're not able to communicate full conversations verbally. That I forgot where I was going with that. That they want to have the help, but the amount of trust that it takes is more than some families can muster.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it, like I said, that was a very heavy weight on me that day. And I was happy to do it. And then, like the following year, we took her again, and the weight was there, but it wasn't as much. Plus, they knew me, and my family a little bit better by the second year. And then I think in the third or fourth year after that, they actually needed to go somewhere overnight, and they couldn't take her along. So they asked if we would mind. And that is not something that I would say is going to happen in every teacher-student situation, nor would that be the right thing to do. But in that particular situation, it was something that my family and I were fine with. And because I had been friends and had become, had been Rose's teacher for a few years at that point, I had a good relationship with the family, and we were happy to do it. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that don't think because you have a child that has a need that your child's teacher should take your child overnight. I don't want to put that on the teachers of the world. I would have a whole bunch of hate mail. Because it's just not going to work out like that. But yeah, I mean, even each time that we took her, there was still that, I was a little uncomfortable. They were uncomfortable, but we worked through the uncomfortableness. And that is, I think, a big component of what I wanted to make sure to say today is doing things uncomfortable is okay. If it's going to help you grow. I think that my family, because of having the opportunity with Rose to spend the time with her, they were able to have a better appreciation of my everyday life as well as her parents' everyday life. My appreciation for their lives, I mean, obviously, I just said they're one of the families in the book, and that's why one of the reasons I wanted to write the book is to share that with the world so that people won't shy away from getting to know a family with special need, or getting to know an individual with a special need, because we're better people from knowing all of my students and their families. And I just appreciate, and not in the like thank you way, but in the other way. I guess in like the acknowledging and respecting and honoring what it's like to have a different lifestyle than mine, and the different things that are thought about. So that would be my first tip, would be uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable, but try to go through it, try to work through it uncomfortably. Because if you never go through it, you're never going to be comfortable. And the second tip, or maybe this was the first tip, is to listen. Like you said, Fran, just even if you can't solve the problem, even if you can't identify at all with what they're talking about, just be that ear, just be that shoulder. Just validate their feelings and let them know that someone heard them. Because there's lots of situations that our friends go through that we can't identify with. But that doesn't mean we can't listen and we can't try to be there for that person. So I'm going to stop now, because I feel like I've been doing all the talking today. So
what is right? You know what I was thinking as you were talking? Oh, go ahead.
What? No, I was just going to say, what is something that you, as a family with a special need, would have appreciated, do appreciate, would like to have happen?
Well, I'm just, as you were talking, a gazillion different scenarios we're swinging through. And so I'm going to try to grab a hold of a couple of them and throw them out there for you. It's okay in the midst of, I'm thinking on someone who's having sensory overload. And the parent is sitting there with their child who is, in the world's eyes, having a temper tantrum. Most people think, oh, look at that spoiled brat. They're having a temper tantrum because they didn't get what they wanted.
Right.
So instead of being embarrassed, I mean, it's embarrassing for everyone. It's
sure.
So acknowledge, okay, yeah, you're embarrassed. They're embarrassed. Everyone's embarrassed. What can you do instead? Hey, can I help you? Do you want me to unload your shopping cart? What can I do for you?
Right.
or just even looking at the parent and smiling and saying, I get it. I understand. I'm here.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just take your time. And just giving them that peace, knowing you're not judging them, because the world judges, we judge ourselves hard enough. And then the world judges, and it's very critical. So just knowing in the middle of that crisis that you're not being judged by that person right behind you sometimes gets you able to get whatever you needed done, or to pick up your child and to walk out and literally leave it all behind. But you at least have a little dignity, maybe, or know that you weren't alone briefly in that moment.
Yeah.
So that's one of my snippets that, as you were sharing, I was thinking, um, is they're just small ways you can let someone know that you're there,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't have to. It really doesn't put you out very much. Just acknowledging, hey, or unloading the cart, or sometimes I'm just smiling and nodding. Really,
Right.
that eye contact. So often in today's society, we're afraid to make eye contact because when you do that, you're making a commitment. To some degree, you really are. But when you make that eye contact, you're acknowledging that that person is a human and
Mm-hmm.
that they're worth taking the time to look at to connect with. So that was one thing that just I was thinking, and you can even take that sensory overload to the Christmas dinner table, to because there's so many routines changing. Well, I
Right.
mean, really changing right now. I mean, in our school district, I think everyone is now going to be remote. But at one point, some were remote for part of the day, some have been remote, and it's just like I cannot keep
Right.
track of it. I don't know how they're doing it. So I just think that uh, there's so much change, and then you have the break. So just even family members sometimes have a hard time understanding or having that compassion. So just I think it comes down to grace, having grace.
I'm waiting for
Um,
Alex to say balance. She hasn't said balance yet.
I know. Well, that was like I was gonna use that word. I'm like, wait, she's gonna take that word out. So I, that was I don't know if that was a snippet that makes sense or not, but
Mhm.
and the other thing I was thinking is not parenting that person's child.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah. I'm
And
trying
I
to
have a
type
hard
these.
time with that. You're typing?
I'm trying to type them. Yeah.
Oh,
Um, so because I want them in the chat box. Um, so
but
I'm
okay. But I mean, I just think that we all think, man, if that was my kid, I would, or, and I know I'm guilty of it. Please know that I'm not sitting here saying I have never done any of these things. No, I'm saying them because I've thought them, and I've done them, or I've been on the recipient end of it, both. And so often we think, well, I would have. I used to always say, I will never, and this is one thing you should never do. Don't say I will never, because it's going to happen.
exactly.
It like I used to work with adults with developmental disabilities, and I would so often say, man, my kids will not do this. You know what? My kids did it. My kids did it
Mhm.
even worse. I'm like, oh, what am I going to learn? What am I going to learn? Don't say that, Fran. So,
Right.
but it just, that grace, that compassion, the balance, the um, understanding, empathy. I don't know. I'm just, but I want to keep coming back to compassion. I think right now is where it is. compassionate.
That's
So
good.
anyway, that's my those are the snippets as you were sharing your story of Rose, and just I think I it makes my heart hurt knowing that it was that long in some ways before they found someone that they could trust.
And they
That,
are a military family, so they didn't live around
right.
family. So that, that's another thing to remember. I mean, especially if you know the people personally. It's different if you're at the grocery store, or you see them out shopping or whatever. But yeah, if you happen to know that they are a family who is away from family, they don't have to be a military family. They could have moved because of a job or, whatever their reason was, they're not around family. Um, so they, yeah, I mean, they had to, that they just, it just, yeah.
Yeah.
It still overwhelms me when I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, it's not a thought that I had. And we all have to trust our children to the world. But the depth of the trust that is necessary, even sending them to school every day, I mean, that's even a different level of trust. When you're sending a child who doesn't speak, you out of your presence, that requires a lot of trust of strangers. That requires a lot of trust to people treating your world
You're everything.
the way that they should be treated. And that was the thing too with Rose's parents, is that she was their world. She was their only child together, so she was their everything. Their whole entire world they sent with me and in my vehicle. And yeah, it still is amazing to me. There was another time when I had a family that their child was sick and in the hospital, and they had been weeks in the hospital. And when I went to visit, I basically forced the mom. I said, "You have to leave. You have to take a break." She had not left, and I understand that, but even that is such a deeper level of, I mean, Violet has only been in the hospital one time, and she was 2.5, and I was right there with her. But for this to be weeks on end, and the mom had not left, and I said, "Just go to the cafeteria. If there's an emergency, I will alert the nurses." But she gave me a little bit of training, and yeah, I was scared because I'm not a medical professional. There were some things that I could have done if necessary before it would get to an emergency situation. But she was only gone about 30 minutes, and I could see the relief come across her face when she came back into the room and he was okay. And I imagine she saw the relief on my face, because I did it uncomfortable. It was an uncomfortable thing for me, but I knew it was something that she really needed. And it was only going to be such a tiny little part of my whole life that I even, maybe I view things differently, but if I'm uncomfortable for a few hours and that recharges somebody else's battery, I don't think I should turn that down. Maybe that's just me.
I don't know. Cooper agrees, I think.
I'm not sure he's uncomfortable there, though.
He agrees with you, though. He's uncomfortable because I won't put the sling on.
Oh,
he wants me to put it on, but I can't right now.
Yeah.
So part of my issues right now are I'm having cluster migraines, so I'm trying not to put pressure on the back of my neck right now.
Understood. And don't feel like we have to do.
Oh, I'm okay. I know I don't look the greatest, but I'm okay.
I'm feeling like we're both dark today. Like I don't.
Oh,
I
feel really lit. But
do you? Okay.
Remember you said try putting it on full screen so we don't get the glare.
Yeah.
So I tried that, and because that's there. This is without full screen, and there's a really glare. So I tried it, and it worked a bit to get rid of some of it on my glasses. Anyway.
Yeah, I just did it on mine, and I think my glare is all gone. I'd have to move to get the glare back.
Oh, but I have my overhead lights on.
The problem with doing full screen, though, is if anybody does make a comment, we won't see it.
Well, I have the other screen open over there, so I can see the comments. But
I also can't type my comment.
Yeah. So
I hope I didn't lose it. Now I'm worried. Now I have to go back. Oh, I did.
Oh no. Did you really?
I did. They're gone. Yep.
All of them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no.
I was typing them. I was just going to make them one comment, and I had 7 points typed out, and they're gone now.
Oh
well.
I guess it's okay. You'll have to re-listen and type them that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe they weren't that important.
That's true too. My grandmother always used to say if there was something that you wanted to say and you waited to say it and then you forgot, that it was either a lie or it wasn't important.
Oh my goodness. I do this and I cross my fingers.
Yep.
But then if I have to do another cross my fingers, then I'll already forget the beginning line.
Well, I might be like this, just having like 4 sets of crossed fingers because I'm like this point and this point and this point and this point. But we actually have, now that I'm looking at the time, we've already done this for 40 minutes today. So, which is
it's okay.
A times through the alphabet and then to like M. So
that doesn't really help me in time though, but thank you.
I'm get it. I'll figure it out. I'll get it.
We started on the clock to where we are now.
Okay, so we started at 12 and 1. 12-1, and now we're at
what?
We started at 112. Is that right? 112.
Yeah.
And now we're at 1-8.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. See, that just is even more complicated because those are numbers, and now I'm confused as to how you understand that.
Because I don't know the numbers per se. I just remember them on the clock.
Oh.
I know the position.
Okay. You know the placement of each of the numbers on
it. Because if you ever look at my clock that's above my office, going into my office, there are no numbers on it.
Oh.
It's got hands.
Huh. Interesting.
The ones that have numbers confuse me. So.
Well, yeah, that would make sense with the number problems that you've had since your stroke and concussions, right? 1 A stroke, B or C concussions.
Oh, many concussions.
Oh, more than that? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But that's life. It's okay.
Yeah.
He's trying to pay attention to what's going on, but he's tired. So I have my helper here today. So.
Oh, okay.
But there was something else I wanted to say because we're talking ways to support special needs families.
The thing you said about behavior, I'm really glad that you said, because that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure to mention, because I've done it. I've been at the store and I've heard kids screaming, or I've, seen parents in line trying to, a single parent trying to get the stuff on the conveyor belt and trying to manage the child in the cart. And, then the child is like tossing things out of the cart or eating things that they haven't been paid for yet, and my original thought might've been, well, why don't they just take them out of the store? Why don't they, why haven't they taught them better? And then I'm like, hey, Shelly, think about, what do you say to other people? where's your compassion, which is a good word, and not judge. And I I've done that a few times where I've tried to entertain the child while the parents are getting the stuff out of the cart. And then I think, I wonder what that person thinks of me, because I'm like, entertaining their child. And so there's been once or twice that I know that I have seen the parent after they've paid and they've left the store, and that just so happened that, my stuff was paid for and I could leave, and I would catch them out in the parking lot. Or I have said to them while I'm in line trying to entertain their child, I'm a special education teacher. I'm just crazy about kids. I'm just trying to help.
Mhm.
I'm trying, and sometimes I feel like they're like, okay. But it's still that sort of like,
Mhm.
that trust. It truly is the trust.
Because I mean, if you think about it, if someone had come up to do that with Violet, I mean, it would still
Absolutely.
be, it's. But
Right.
I just, I guess in some ways, I trust. I have a lot of trust for people because I just know I can't do it. I just can't. Especially now with my different abilities myself, I have to lean into other people and to um, allow them to do.
Right.
So, oh, there was I keep wanting to the one thing I wanted to say, if it's okay,
Mhm.
it's kind of like a direction. We're
Okay.
no longer in the store and entertaining that way. Is family gatherings may be different, whether it's we're meeting over social media and Zoom or FaceTime or Messenger or Google Meets or whatever, however, um, and everyone's sitting and visiting except for that child that won't sit still or is upside down or sideways or screaming, or just don't make them be part of the conversation. If they say hey, that's sufficient. And if they never even make it in there, don't force the issue. Say, yeah, well, I see who's missing out of this conversation. Do you
Mhm.
know what you just did when you say that? You just stabbed that parent deep in the heart, and then not only did you stab it, you twisted it, and then you took it out and stabbed it a few more times in the process, because that parent already knows that it's obvious that their child is not part of that. So instead, just carry on, acknowledge it, say, hey, just tell so and so we love them, or Merry Christmas, and move on with the conversation.
Right.
Um,
And I swear you're reading my mind, but they were the thoughts I was having on the way home, not the thoughts that I'm having right now. Because that's another thing that I wanted to say is, a lot of times we think we're being inclusive because we make a comment about, hey, we're missing so and so, or
mhm.
we've allowed them to, and that's a horrible way to say that, we've welcomed them into the family gathering. But if we don't engage with the person or their parents, we're still not really being inclusive. Sitting right next to them at the table and not talking to them is not inclusive.
Mhm.
Not acknowledging them. Obviously, if they're a nonverbal person, or if they have sensory issues and talking and having all that environment, just be respectful of that, but also make sure that you are acknowledging that that person is there. Like you mentioned before, the eye contact, and saying, hey, I'm really glad you're here. And that's it. For some people, that's all they want to know. But yeah, if you're playing a game, invite them into the game. Um, I'm thinking about a cousin of mine, and he's in his 30s, and his mom says, that it's difficult for him at the family gatherings because his mentality is more childlike. But he can play card games and pretty complex card games. My family likes to play super complex, like 500 direction games. And he can do those games because he knows the rules and he's done them before, but he's not comfortable, or the parents of the little ones that he's developmentally capable of playing with, and that's really where he wants to be, aren't comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But then he doesn't have enough
social
quick processing skill to have a response to the conversation that's going on with the adults when he's playing cards with them. So even though, you know, he's there and participating, it's not inclusive. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, trying to find that happy medium for him as to, okay, let's play some card games, but, you know, maybe a one-on-one card game or just a 2 or 3 people card game where the conversation could be at a pace and at an interest level, you know, because I mean, my aunts and uncles, you know, they get to talking about politics and religion and taxes and jobs and, you know, things that he doesn't really want to talk about. So again, it's just being present, being aware, being accepting, and being inclusive. Now I got to type all those.
Having grace and balance and compassion and empathy.
Right.
But okay, may I say something?
I'm sorry. I cut you off. I know.
No, it's okay because it ties right into it ties into about your cousin, the same concept, developmentally. So often, like my son, he loves babies, and he likes Caillou and VeggieTales and Barney and things like that. Yet he's an adult in the world's eyes, but he would much rather play with the kids that are at that level, and there is no understanding of that. There's a fear. There's a fear that he's going to hurt them or do something wrong with them, or so having that understanding and acknowledging that you don't have to buy a gift for that person that's their age that the world says they are. You can buy them a gift that they're going to appreciate. Why are you going to waste your money on something that they're going to not even have the ability to use or do?
Mm-hmm.
And why are we trying to force them into this box, this whatever? I have apparently all my animals today.
It's okay.
You know, you know, it's just, but so I guess I just get so irritated sometimes. When, and like my son, okay, he's happy with pencils, unsharpened pencils, literally. But so don't waste your money on something he can't use.
Right.
But I want to tell a really quick story. It's really, really quick because
that's perfect because we're getting close to back to 12 o'clock. Yeah. So
okay, it's how my family had to adjust in this season because we've always opened gifts where my sister and I had the same number of gifts, or they were similar gifts, so they had to be opened at the same time. Otherwise, the other one would know what the other had. Well, that's how we were doing it with my kids, or my parents would do with my kids. Well, some of the holidays it was one, and some it was the other that wasn't going to open gifts that day. They were having an off day, so it took a really long time. But now, if one or the other isn't opening, we just stack their gifts there beside them, and they open them when they are ready, and it is so much more pleasant and so much nicer. So it's learning to adapt. Yes, traditions are traditions. Family traditions go back really far sometimes, but
somebody has to do it the first time in order for it to start.
Sometimes you can have make new traditions and do new things, and sometimes it's really neat to create something new, or to to not make it new, but to maybe change something old to make it
Adapted.
present.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my quick story.
See, I swear you're like in my head, because that was something that I was thinking about recently was, all traditions had to happen once, and then again, and then again. And that's how it became a tradition. So
Mm-hmm.
because you do something, you can start a new tradition, like you said. And that, yeah. So it's just interesting. We for those of you who are joining us today, or who have been joining us all this time, it was like 2 hours ago that we were saying, what are we going to talk about today? And Fran was like, I don't know. Do you have any ideas? And I was like, well, what about this? What about support for families during the holidays? And now we're both, we did not, we don't talk about what we're going to talk about as far as the details. That just, I guess, is the Lord, because he knows our hearts, and he knows our hearts for you that are listening. And so he just ordains what we're going to talk about and how it all comes together, because we oftentimes don't give each other a lot of heads up as to what the other one is going to say. In fact, we don't give each other the heads up at all. As to
not
what
anymore, for sure.
Yeah. We're I don't know. I don't know that we're getting, if this is a bad thing or a good thing, that we're comfortable with doing this now. So we just are like, yeah, let's just start talking and something will happen. But we always do try to have a theme.
Conversations.
Yeah, we always do try to, have an idea. So we are going to have to close out, because we are just this much away from hitting our hour mark.
I'm having animal.
I did I came up with 8 things, and I don't remember if those were the original 7 and then I just came up with one more, or if I came up with 8 completely different ones. But there are a lot of things in today's episode of ways that you can support a family who has a special need. And I hope that you realized that we didn't talk about spending money. There was the comment about, if you're going to buy a gift, make sure it's appropriate for the person, not necessarily chronological age, but developmental age. But all the things that we suggested to make life a little easier and be supportive during this time were not money related. It wasn't going out and buying groceries. It wasn't going out and buying items or toys or gifts or whatever. It was being human, doing some simple things, like you said, just when you're in the store. See, they know that you don't feel well,
gracious.
and they just want to be there to help you feel better.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. You are totally fine. So Crystal and Alex, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your comments. I hope you enjoyed the song at the beginning. For anyone who is listening and you're watching this in the replay, if we can help you, if there's something that we, if you want to talk to one of us, please comment, or you can private message me on this page. And if it's not something that you want to talk to me about, but you think Fran would have a better understanding of a situation, then let me know that, and I will just put you in contact with Fran.
Definitely.
And yeah, if there's other ideas, if you've watched this and you're like, well, they didn't say this, or, oh, this would have really been good, put it in the chat, because the chat goes with the video. So whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on Facebook, the stuff that's in the chat is with it. So it can be helpful to other people. So we may
remember, you're not alone.
Yeah, that is so true. So true. And that is something that I've heard from a lot of families that I've worked with and spoken with over the years, that even though there's 1 in 26 families that have someone with a special need in them, so many families still feel like they're the only ones going through this. And it's not that. You're not alone. We thank you for joining us today. If you would like a free IEP checklist or a free social story for primary grades, you can hop on over to my website, fill in your name and email address, and one of those or all of 3 of those things. There's 2 different types of IEP checklists, and then the social story. They will be sent to you immediately. I've got it set up automatically. Don't ask me how. It took me forever. I couldn't tell you how to replicate it, but I know it works because I've had people do it. So thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next Friday. Tuesday on #NoLimits, I will be joined by someone who a semester before he graduated college had an accident that changed the trajectory of his life. And not only that, but he's going to give some tips and ideas of how to help prepare and plan for your child's financial and safety future. So you definitely want to tune in. He is a lawyer. So he knows about special needs trusts and different things to do as far as all that is concerned. So Fran, get better. That's an order.
Thank you. Working on it.
Yeah, like I said, for those of you who are praying people, she would covet your prayers for her health at this point. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. And this is Shelley Keno, IEP and education consultant, making the world better for all, one IEP at a time, joined with Fran for Friday with Fran.